right, everybody, here we are. Welcome to Concepts Live, Modern Drummers live version of the Concepts column. And this is episode 5, and we have an amazing guest for you today and a really great topic to talk about as well. So thanks so much for everyone who supported Concepts Live here through the Modern Drummer YouTube channel. And we are well into it. We are 5 episodes in. We had Jeff Hamilton, Steve Smith, Dom Famularo, Johnny Rabb, so many esteemed guests to be a part of this event here online. And we are discussing either past or present columns that I do for Modern Drummer magazine, the Concepts column, which has been around literally since the beginning of the magazine in the 70s. Roy Burns was the first author of the column. Billy Ward took over for a period of time, and I have been doing it since 2013. So my honor to do so. We have today a topic I think is very important for everybody. And as you know, if you've seen Concepts Live or read any of the columns, we always start with a quote that I base the column around. And today's quote, we're going to bring up a picture of this guy, and I'm assuming everyone knows who this is. It's Henry Ford, of course, the inventor of the automobile and the Ford Motor Company. And I got to put my glasses on because it's a little bit long to read here. But our quote for the day, and this is from Henry Ford, is, "The man who will use his skill and constructive imagination to see how much he can give for $1 instead of how little he can give for $1 is bound to succeed." And I think that's super duper important, that understanding of when you are being paid to do something, no matter what it is. Now, we're talking about obviously doing gigs here on drums and being an artist and a musician, but no matter what it is, it's so important to know that you have to give that value to the people paying you and above if you want to continue to work there or be called back, as it were, for a musician. So it's so important that we understand what that means. I came up with about 6 or so definitions of what that might be to us as drummers and as musicians and what it means to be doing a gig. So what we're going to do today is bring in an amazing artist, and I thought this was really interesting to do with this guy who's a great friend of mine and one of the great artists who plays percussion in the world. And he is an amazing hand percussionist and drum set player, and I really wanted to bring him in to discuss his approach as he comes to a gig as a whole different instrumentalist, right? Now he's a hand percussionist, and then he comes as a drummer, and he does pretty much an equal amount of both, I think. Certainly just a resounding, amazing, esteemed career in every direction with percussion. He's originally from Caracas, Venezuela, and I've known him for many years. I don't even know how long it's been now. It's got to be 25 or 30 years. And multiple Grammy Award-winning platinum recording artist. And he's worked with Shakira, Barry Gibb, Carlos Oliva, Juanes, Ricky Martin, Gloria Estefan, blah, 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 blah. There's so many of them. We're not going to go through all of them. But I've seen him everywhere, from a Nissan Murano commercial to the Univision TV shows to the house band for the Latin Grammys. I mean, he's done all kinds of stuff. So we have today for Concepts Live Mr. Richie Bravo. What's up, Richie?
Hey, brother Russ. I'm great, man. Great to be here. It's always fun to be or talking with you. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to it, my friend.
Well, thank you for setting the time aside. I know you're a busy man, and I know we're less busy now with the COVID thing, but
absolutely. But we are blessed, and man, you know, whenever there's something with Russ, you know, I'm gonna be there. You know that, my brother.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I know that about you for sure. You know, one of the things before we get started with this, I like me, you've had your own recording studio for many, many years. So this is nothing new for you to have people calling and doing sessions online and doing videos of the sessions and doing editing or whatever, you know, all that stuff. I know I started it in the early 2000s, and you've had it for about that long as well, right?
That is correct. 2003, exactly. I started.
Yeah.
So over 17 years, and yeah, it's like not much difference, with the COVID. As for you, as for myself, not much difference. I get people calling me, giving me or FaceTime or giving me instructions to do the recording. I just go ahead and send the files.
Yeah, and that's great. That's such an amazing thing for you to see that ahead of time, that business model of because you spent a tremendous amount of time like me in commercial studios.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, and for you to see that business model change, and we discussed changing your business plan with Dom Famularo in episode 3 of Concepts Live. Check that one out, because that's a really great discussion about doing something like that. Going, hey, I see this changing. I'm going to change. I'm going to make a move. And provide that. So important.
Absolutely, Russ. And again, you do have to move with time, and eventually, from this, something else is going to pop up, and eventually we're going to have to change as well in the future.
Yeah, and I mean that's a testament to the fact that you've been doing this now. I mean, we were kids. I don't remember. I think we met in maybe the late '80s or early 90s.
Plus, Russ, I can tell you, 30 years plus.
30 years plus, right? And that's weird because I'm only 32, so we must have been very young when we met. But it's been a long time, and to stay relevant for a guy like you, here you are still playing on the most top albums and TV shows and everything that's still going on. That's a testament to your artistry and also your business savvy, in the sense of balancing that artistry and commerce is what I like to call it, right? That balance of you can be the greatest player in history, but if nobody knows about it, or if you can't monetize it, then you can't do it.
And also, Russ, the other way around, you could be the most smart, talented business-wise, but as a matter of fact, there's some players that cannot deliver.
Yeah.
The music, so it goes kind of both ways.
Absolutely, and I spoke in the column several times about overselling, you kind of overselling the product, right? I had a student one time. He sent me his resume, quote unquote, or his bio, and it said, this young man, blah, 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 he had played this with Chick Corea and Pat Metheny and Stanley Clark, and, it just went on and on and on, and I was like, what? When did you play with Chick Corea and Pat Metheny and all these guys? And he was like, oh, well, I was in college. They all came through the big band as a guest, and I'm like, oh, man, please take that out. Take that out of everything, because I'm going to expect you to be Vinnie Colaiuta when I hear you play. I'm looking for something that's beyond amazing. And if you don't deliver that, we're going to have a negative experience, right? I'm going to be like, oh man, this guy's jive,
Russ, can I add something to that? And I have also students and friends and co-friends and friends of other friends that they will tell me, Rich, here's my resume, and I have done the same thing a bit in the Latin market, but the difference is in a lot of Spanish TV, I can tell you, unfortunately, they do a lot of playback. Yeah. So let's say, they say, oh, I played with Shakira, and I played with Ricky Martin, and I played with this and that, and I say, man, really? And it just so happens that at the time where I work with them or tour with them,
right,
it's like, really?
Yeah, and, I'm actually on that gig.
Yeah, well, what happens to what they did a TV playback,
right?
And they put that in the resume, like if they really perform with them, and that's
right.
Kind of the same thing for you in a different setting, but the same.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it's true. They sideline, on a TV show or something, and they're not actually playing, or they weren't hired necessarily to be the percussionist or the drummer. It was just to be a human behind the drums.
Absolutely. Or a trumpet or bass or guitar or something.
Right. Don't put that in your resume, okay? Unless you were hired by the people.
Absolutely.
Well, you certainly have no shortage of resume, my friend. You've been doing this for a long time. Incredibly impressive. And, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was, and I think it's really interesting for everybody who's watching the show, is, you've had the opportunity as a hand percussionist, as a percussionist, to play with some of the best drummers in the world. I mean, I remember with Vinnie Colaiuta with the Herbie Hancock Duets project and some of those other things that you did.
Absolutely.
I mean, can you talk for a second about what happens, when someone at that level is playing drums? Like, how do you approach that as a percussionist? And I know you being a drum set player helps it a lot, because you kind of know what you want to hear from a percussionist as a drum set player. And
Absolutely.
that's what I love about your playing so much. And I'll let you answer in a second. But one of the things I wanted to say was, I always say that, my favorite percussionists to play with is like Luis Conti and Richie Garcia and Richie Bravo and all these guys, that they all play drum set. All of them play drum set a little bit, and it gives them an idea of what you want to hear from the percussionist. Like some percussionists, just they tinker too much. There's so much stuff going on.
Absolutely.
You're like, dude, please just let's groove a thing. It sounds like you're in a vintage store and you're playing everything you can see, or something like. But anyway, talk a little bit about playing percussion along with some of the great drummers that you've had an opportunity to play with.
Well, I have to mention, I also record. I've been blessed. Steve Gadd, the Ed Calle second CD,
Right.
I got to play with John Patitucci on bass, and it was a live session, no click,
Right.
Studio A Hit Factory, and man, it was like you get hyped, but at the same time, the back of your neck, you're scared.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a scary thing, but it's like something that I've done that I'm very sure of myself, playing percussion or drums. It's just something that I do naturally. It's not something that's like out of my reach.
Yeah, of course.
So I prepare myself mentally, because oh my God, I get to play with one of my idols.
Yeah.
Not for nothing, but I have to mention that I have recorded and played with Russ, and you're my dear friend, but I really look up to you all these years.
Thank you.
And it's just a great feeling, and I know what you mean. By playing with these great players, Steve or Russ, it's like magic. When I play with them, it feels like I play with them all these times, all these years.
Yeah.
That I have you guys on all the records and all the stuff, and I can't play with you just like if I'm playing with Barry Gibb. I can compare you to. You hear the voice in your ears as I'm playing my conga or my timbal track, and I hear you. I know a little bit how you play. I know how Steve. I know all these guys are my idols,
right?
And it's true. The thing with me, I get to play percussion with my idols, my drum idols. That I'm actually a drummer,
right?
So I think I'm so blessed about that. Then again, Russ, you are also a percussionist as well as a drummer, so you can understand if you had a drummer and you just part of him.
Yeah.
Because the percussion becomes the other extremes of the drummer.
Yeah.
That's my concept in the hand.
Well, see, I'm a percussion owner, though. You're an actual percussion player. I just own percussion.
No, I have to disagree a little bit with you there. No, I've seen you in the couple of things that you did with Kirk, which sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I have to congratulate you. So you're formerly a percussion.
I'm icing my hands after the gig. I don't know how you guys play all night long like that. I don't have the technique. I know what to play in theory, but I don't have the technique as well.
But you know how to play with the drum sets.
Yeah,
that's key. That's totally the key of it.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing. I played with Liberty. Liberty, the video, one of my idols. Yeah. I played with him, and I know. Basically, I'm lucky. All the drums that I have played with, I know how they play because I studied them all my life.
Yeah.
So just as you have taught me a little bit of actually technique. It's just I'm not as good as you, but you have taught me, Molar when we were at the TV studio. Do you remember?
I do remember that.
You came to Miami.
I do remember.
And I have practiced a bit of you. I also watch all your videos on YouTube.
Right.
So now, Russ. The concept of percussion with a drummer is so important because they do tend to get in the way. They always do. I can tell you more than 50%. That is the case. And that's because they're not drum set, should I say it this way, drum set trained.
Right. Right.
And it's just awful because it happens to me many times,
Yeah. And you
on
know
the
what?
drum.
It's interesting because one of the things that I always say is that it's so important for everybody to go play another instrument. Not that you're going to go do a gig on trumpet or guitar or whatever, but what happens is the time spent, and percussion's a great way to do this, by the way, and is just by playing a shaker or a tambourine, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of a sudden now you're listening to what you need to get from the drummer to be able
Absolutely.
to do that well and not be struggling or not be, going, where's the time, or, all that kind of stuff. And it all of a sudden it changes like your whole approach to the drum set because,
Oh yeah.
yeah, now you're going, wow, I really realize what it feels like to play with this drum set guy that's going nuts. And there's all these crazy fills and all these things they're not in time and they're missing one and all those things that drive you crazy when you're playing percussion or playing piano or trumpet or whatever it is and not playing drum set. All of a sudden it connects like, wow, I get it.
Absolutely. And Ross, and to add on what you just said, something also, drum set and percussion, especially percussion, I think we're like the icing on the cake. What you just mentioned, I have done so many shaker sessions and tambourine sessions,
Yeah.
and people have a bit of wrong concept, because let me tell you, to play in time 2 on 4 in a tambourine,
it's hard.
It's a lot of, it's just constant. It's not hard, but a lot of concentration. Just like for me to play in the pocket with you, I feel that I when we play together, I feel the same time you do. So it's much easier to play together with you.
Yeah.
But I have to play with other drummers that don't feel, they either rush the two or they lay back one on a kick, and it's so frustrating for me.
Yeah.
And
for everybody in the band, by the way, not, you know what I mean? They're feeling it too, And,
absolutely. But playing percussion, it's playing a shaker. I take it as serious. If they hire me to play the shaker, I'm going to give you the best shaker that I can ever give you as a full drum set or a shaker or a tambourine or a cowbell. Man, it's very, to me, it's very serious.
It's not easy. It's not. Trust me, as you know, I do a lot of small percussion overdubs from movies, right? Because I'm there doing drums. They're not going to bring Luis in a whole session for a tambourine or something when I'm already there. So I play drums and they're like, hey, can you just add the tambourine? Yeah. Okay, here's an 8th note tambourine pattern at 80 BPM for 30 minutes or 3 minutes, and it's like ching, 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 ching. It is really hard to like make that smooth and feel good and be consistent. And try it. Go grab a shaker and play mid to slow tempos and try to get the same sound and all those things that happen. And I'm like doing this. I'm with my hand. I'm doing everything I can. I'm holding it this way. Anything I can do to like.
Everything starts to hurt.
Yeah, it starts to hurt. It's really interesting. And you know what? It brings me to what we're going to talk about with the column today, about what you were mentioning about playing with me or Steve or JR or Vinny or anybody. Is like you are coming into that situation with preparation, right? You're prepared in a lot of ways. You're prepared to execute on your instrument. You're prepared to execute because you might have to read, or knowing what to play for a stylistically the parts. But also, there's a historical preparation that you've done, because you go, I know what Steve Gadd's pocket feels like. I know where he's going to go. I know he's not going to go into some crazy 30-second note thing, during this fill. So when here comes a time where Gadd's going to play something, I have a feeling or a notion of what relative is going to happen, because you're prepared, historically prepared. That's super important.
Absolutely. Yes, Russ. Like if I know in advance, I do try to get myself together. When I played on your CD, of course, I heard you and stuff, and in YouTube, you have a lot of videos. And I also, my dear brother and like one of my top percussion idols, Giovanni Hidalgo.
Yeah.
The week before you called me, I did. I never told you this. I did. Of course, I prepared myself. I grab of you guys
Yeah.
to make sure I have to be in the same frequency as you guys.
Yeah.
Although I do have to say, you guys are like in a different. You're not from Earth. You guys are not from Earth. You're like beyond.
Whatever.
So I have to make sure I'm a normal person. These people are not
whatever,
normal.
Man.
They're extraordinary human beings.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun, and Richie's referring to the Giovanni Hidalgo and I's album "Two Become One" that he was a guest on, and we did that at Criteria Studios in Miami over several days, and that was a joy. That whole session was just a joy, and playing with Gio, of course, and you as well. I mean, Richie really played some amazing stuff. Some of the great timbali solos that I've heard, actually, really, really killing. So thank you for doing that, buddy.
That was fun. That was on Russ. I mean, between you, I got Russ Miller and I got Giovanni, and I'm like, it's like, I never forget that feeling, man.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So when we talk about this thing, the business of gigging thing, one of the things that the first thing that I talk about is giving it all you've got, right? So when we go to those situations. And I've seen this a lot where I would see guys, now that they're social networking, everybody posts a picture of every gig, right? They're doing all this stuff. And I would see these guys show up with, an 18-inch bass drum and one cymbal and like a hi-hat and a snare drum. And they're playing with this band and they're playing, Journey songs, or they're playing, there's no toms. Like, where's the toms, man? How are you going to play like the big Journey tom fills, or... Absolutely. That thing of like, look, I don't want to carry these drums to the gig, so I don't want to take this stuff. One of the things that I see about you is any gig that I have done, or sessions or pictures, anything I see you on, you got the timbali here, and you got the drums and the cymbals and the bells and the thing, and all your stuff is there. You're bringing your A game. It doesn't matter if it's 50 people or 50,000 people. You do the same level of excellence, which I think is really important.
Well, Russ, there's something that stuck to me. I'm sure you heard it before, and it's like, make sure whenever you do a session, think of it if it's like it was your last session.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed. I can tell. I'm 50 years old, and I'm so blessed to do so many stuff. And I think, recording wise, it's just like a stamp of you in time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always had this feeling. I can tell maybe since I was a young kid before, any recording that I did, and so I take that to me very highly.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I had even before knowing more knowledge about business and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, I always, if I need to take 10 cowbells, and so that you have, some people have an idea. I have cowbells in the different notes.
Yeah.
I find, and they're hard to get.
Yeah.
It's not like a keyboard or a sample. Cowbells are rare. I have about over 50 cowbells. Okay.
Right.
And
hard trying to find the pitches to be correct, and a lot of them are handmade, and a lot of them are inconsistent.
Exactly.
You gotta find
and it's not like a drum that you can tune and you can pitch. The cowbells, it's just one note and that's it.
That's it. It's like a steel drum. You can't even knock a new note.
Being a professional, that I in the way of me growing up and thinking, man, you hire me, you might have a song in B flat or a song in E or in a different key.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I have everything, all the tools that I need to make sure your song goes well and beyond your expectations.
Yeah.
As you bring me into a project, and to this day, I haven't lost that, Russ.
Yeah.
I have not lost that. And yes, there's a lot of percussionists and drummers that are very lazy.
Yeah.
That are very lazy. Not only that, but you see that they never change their heads.
Right.
And drums, after a certain amount of time, the stretching, heat, cold.
Yeah.
The drums you have to have brand new heads, and
Yeah.
And I have everything extra, Russ. I have extra timbales. I have extra bongos. I have extra batas. I have everything that can think so, and it's part of the
your product.
Of Richie's world.
Yeah.
I need all that.
You got to. Yeah, like the heads are a great example because people don't realize the elasticity of the glue and the plastic dies in about 6 months, give or take, depending how much you're playing it. And like I'll see guys with drum sets where they have the stock head that the drum set was shipped on in 1987. It still says Yamaha on the head or Burl or something. You're going, man, that's the head they sent it to you with, man. Like
exactly,
change the head.
All that affects the sound. It affects your sound.
Yeah,
aren't you? Yeah. You're a professional. You're supposed to, that should be like in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The column we're talking about today is from the 2016 column in June of 2016. And one of the things that I talked about was I opened up the column with this discussion about the Rush R40 concert, which ended up being their last. I saw their next to last show that they ever played in Irvine. I was going to go to Hollywood, L.A., but Neil said, no, come to Irvine because it'll be a madhouse. It's the last show of the tour in L.A. and it's L.A. and all the actors and the clowns will be there. And so I went to Irvine and saw the show, and it was ridiculous. It was absolutely absurd. Like just the level of playing, the show, the lights, the sound. They did this thing where they changed the stage to look like each tour that they had done, so when they got to those songs from that tour, the stage looked like that, and then they would change it. By the time they got to the next songs, it looked like that tour, and it was just like, the whole thing, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't, this is unbelievable. And here you're going for their 40th plus anniversary tour, all these guys got to do show up. If they show up with a t-shirt, on stage, everybody's going to be happy, like, hey, there they are. They're on stage. They're legendary guys. I'm so glad I'm seeing this. But they delivered this thing back to the people who's hiring them. We are hiring them as the audience. Absolutely. We are hiring you to play. Yes, the band leader's hiring you, but the hierarchy of where the money comes from is from the audience, right? So, or the producer in a session or the label or whatever. And it's just what you're hiring those people to do something extremely well. And they just delivered. And it was about that delivery, like you're talking about, when we hire you to come in, we expect you to operate at this level. We're paying you to do that. And here you come, bam, bam, bam. The cowbells are the right pitch. A lot of people don't even understand that. A lot of times when you record, you have to tune the troubadour, you have to tune the conga to the pitch of the song. You have to have cowbells that sit in the root key of the song. A lot of times I'll tune the sub kick on the bass drum so that the low end note on the bass drum is in the root key of the song, or tune the toms in that way, or at least relative to the key, and things like that. So all those things are so important. And that corresponds a little bit with what I was talking about with the Rush show, and that is that you have reinvested. One of the things about this is reinvesting your time, your energy, your money, your preparation, reinvesting into your playing, into your career, into what you're doing, not just taking. And I see a lot of musicians do that where it's like, they don't invest in the website or the solo album or the gear or the multiple cowbells or the different snare drums or the cymbal. I mean, whatever it is, there's all these different things that you can reinvest into yourself. That you're not playing your 1965 Slingerland set, 45 years later with the same heads and the same cymbals and going, why am I not relevant? Why am I not being called to do these things? It's like, well, man, you haven't invested into the preparation to provide that service. And I think that's one of the things with your studio. Now, look, you went to Full Sail, right? Absolutely. Which was for engineering and production and stuff. So with your studio, you've invested into that. And then you have that whole other side where about that part of it too, with recording.
Absolutely. And that's one I'm extremely sensitive, as you are too, Russ, because you're an amazing engineer. Our ear training, man, if I hear wrong. If I hear, man, there's a wrong note somewhere. Wrong. It might be
Yeah.
a drum. It might be a conga resonance.
Yeah.
Overtone. It would be an overtone. Oh, okay. You know what? You go ahead. You fix it up. You tune it different, or you change the head, or do away where we're sensitive. If we hear something that's off,
Yeah.
I think we're a bit. I can say this. We're a bit ahead of the people that hire us. It's just they trust us.
Yeah.
So much that they know we will take care of any technical or audio in our department, in the drums or percussion department, in a recording or in a setting or in a session.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that we have, that why people keep calling us back.
It's so important. And it's funny, I remember doing a bunch of the pop records over the years, and I would know the management of the artist or whatever, and maybe I wouldn't do the tour because for whatever reason, I didn't want to play that music all the time. I didn't mind playing it for the album, but or they wanted like a young kid or whatever. But I remember saying to some of the management at that time, they would say, "What do you do with the band?" or "What do we want to do with the band?" And I said, the key element, the great situations that I saw, the artist was the weakest person on stage. The band was so excellent and so amazing and so high end, that they could, that the artist could sit back into that. They could rest back into that chair. They didn't have to carry the gig the whole time on their shoulders. And that was, for me, I would witness young artists do that, where it's like, well, they didn't want to pay, they weren't paying anybody, so they had all these guys that couldn't really play that well or very young. And then the artist was like, man, if they had a bad night, it was a bad show. Like, because they were carrying the whole thing. The same thing with the producers for the records. It's like, get the best you can get, so that they bring something that you don't even know exists yet, like you were saying. You know what I mean? And it's like when look, let's take a look at the Geo record. I don't tell you what to play. I'm going to tell Giovanni Hidalgo what to play. I'm not telling him what to play. Like, whatever he plays, he's going to come up with something so far superior to what I ever dreamt of. Just let him do it. And I think that's one of the keys too, is, you coming in there, being prepared, reinvesting into your thing, so that you come in with, they don't even know there's 50 cowbells in the whole world, and here you come with 50 cowbells and have everything tuned. You know what I mean? And you're providing something that they were like, wow, I didn't even know we were going to operate at that level until Richie brought us up to that level.
Absolutely. And then what happens is, next year comes, or 2 years later, and they call you again.
Yeah.
To do the new album for whoever the artist is. And
Right.
and that's what I've been doing, Russ, all my life.
Yeah.
That's sort of my mentality since I was very young. Thank God.
It's obvious. So that's why you're still, working. That's why you're still doing what you do. One of the other points here, I have number 4 in here, which is never underestimate the experience of doing a lot of gigs. And there's a real great saying. Tony Williams says, "Don't confuse experience with mastery." Right? So that means just because you do a lot of stuff doesn't mean you're a master of it or going to be amazing at it. But one of the components of mastery is experience. Right? You have to be able to do a lot of different things. One of the things that we've both been blessed to do is countless, immeasurable amounts of gigs and sessions and who knows what, everything from a horrible bar mitzvah to, a wedding gig, that whatever, to the biggest Madison Square Garden, or, and everything in between. And we've been very blessed for that, for our careers. But I really attest the fact to, when we bring in an artist at your level and we say, play this, that all of that experience comes down in every stroke on the drum, right? Every stroke is foundationalized by all of that stuff. And I think right now is really super important, because, like, look, COVID, nobody's doing gigs, right? But
Right.
even there's a generation of guys right now that are playing by themselves, filming themselves, playing with play-alongs, doing those things by themselves, not playing music with other people, not communicating, not doing those things. I mean, I personally think this is so important that everybody gets out and, involve yourself with communication, playing with other people in all these different ways, because it's the foundation of everything that you do. All those gigs. I mean, look at the Solis Bravo gig where you guys do all kinds of different stuff and have done for many years, right?
Yes, that's a really fun gig.
Yeah,
That's my brother and my cousin, and
right.
that's a really cool project. It's all the way from big band to salsa to bolero to cha cha cha. That's a well brought
Yeah,
uh, musical scene there.
yeah. And can you talk a little bit about how you feel about all those gigs that while you were doing them didn't necessarily blow your skirt up? They weren't like, oh, this is I'm having an amazing evening. It's like, I'm not having an amazing evening. I'm playing, and the mother of the bride's going, play it quieter, and load out through the kitchen. It's like, I smell the garbage, and
I've been Russ, from exactly everything that you mentioned, I've been through.
Yeah.
I was just, well, as you were mentioning that, at the beginning of the year, as you know, I got called. They called me to play with Shakira at the halftime.
Yeah. Oh yeah, at the Super Bowl, right? Yeah.
Now, the exact day of the Super Bowl, I'm gonna put you to everything that you're saying that one day. I played at the stadium, and how many people watched the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And I don't know,
billions.
I don't know.
That's the biggest gig in the world. There's no gig bigger than that.
So that was 6, 7 p.m. at night. Okay, I had to run the same night around 11 o'clock at night. We play in a club. I went to play in a club for 50 people. It was Shakira's birthday. Her surprise was her manager told me, put a salsa band together. She wants to dance salsa all night.
Right.
And it was for 40 people in a little club.
Right.
So the same day I went to play at the Super Bowl to run in a club for 50 people. The same day. So that's an example of what you're saying. Right?
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I talked to Steve Gadd about this, and Elvin Jones too, who I was blessed to do a whole tour with, and Elvin, it was all, they were just gigs. They were all about playing, and that's a perfect example where it's like, you just played the Super Bowl. I mean, it doesn't get bigger. There's no other gig that's bigger than that, and
Super Bowl and then a birthday party.
And then a birthday party. I love it. Now it was Shakira's birthday party. That's cool, but still, it's here you are schlepping your stuff or whatever into this club, and you got to play quiet or blah blah blah. It's just, but you're still playing. You're playing, and you learned something from that birthday party gig. Whatever it was, we don't know, but it might be what not to do, but you learned something, right?
And, absolutely, Russ. Absolutely.
No, there's been there's been times where I would play Madison Square Garden headlining, and then a couple nights later be playing a casual with and right. People are like, play quieter or do this or do that, and you're like, last week you wouldn't even be able to walk up to me. Like, the security would throw you out on your ear if you got this close to me, and now you're like yelling in my face, play quieter. But all that stuff, you just put it aside and go,
absolutely.
I'm here to play music, and just doing all those gigs, playing all those styles, and being a part of that. Certainly with a Super Bowl thing, just knowing that you have the confidence and ability to walk out in front of 100 and some thousand people on site and 1 billion people watching and execute at a high level and play at a high level. That does so much for you, for your confidence in anything that you do, right?
Man, you hear, you know the feeling when it's like your heart is here. You're like on the bleachers, and when you walk and you hear the
yeah.
And you look around 360 and you see all the people. It's like, holy mackerel!
I know.
And no, it's you get a little thing in your heart, And the first is always in my mind. I wish my dad was here to see this, and but what have you. But then again, from that to having to play in a little restaurant, hey, can you play softer? And then you play
Yeah.
to the tip of like
Right.
very soft,
Hey,
and
play
it's
one
like,
ton tomato. That kind of like you're calling.
yeah,
Really?
yeah. Let's girl from Ipanema.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because in episode 2 of Concepts Live with Steve Smith, which was called "Focus on Elimination," and it was about focusing on what to eliminate to be able to play tonight in the best way possible. Right. So here's all these people, the lights, the TV, none of that has anything to do with Richie playing his part. If you can play your
Oh,
part at home in your bedroom, you can play it at the Super Bowl halftime. If you eliminate
absolutely.
everything around you that's not relative to you playing. And Steve had a great line. If you watch episode 2, you'll see him where they're like, he's playing with Journey at in a stadium in San Francisco, and they're like, are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you? And he's like, no. I'm none of those things. I'm not excited. I'm not anything. I'm concentrating on playing this show, and what I have to do. And, you enjoy it afterwards more than before, of course, because you're nervous, right? And
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
that's really important. But I think it's about really knowing that you're going to play your instrument and the joy of that. And look, if it has more money or more popularity or more visibility, great. That's all great. And the thing that Elvin really told me was like, man, you're either here to play or you're not. Like if you're here for the money, go home. If you're here to be famous, go home. Not to say you're not going to make money or be famous, but all that's going to be a byproduct of your playing. And I mean real playing, not jive playing, not like, because I can, all that.
I know what you mean. I
Yeah,
know what
it's
you mean.
like real deal. We'll see you in 30 years and you're still here doing it like you are. That's real deal, man. And I commend you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you. You heard it from Elvin. I heard it from my dad.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And here's the other thing that I think is really important that I love about your artistry is one of the other things I spoke about in the column, which is pushing your boundaries. And not just doing the status quo of like, well, I know I can do this, and or here's the other thing, that I see. I call it, warming your hands on your legend. Like, look, I don't know how many Grammys you got. You got more Grammys than the Recording Academy has ready to hand out to people. I mean, I don't know what it's like 20 some Grammys or whatever, but
almost 30, almost 30.
almost 30. But yeah, all right. So anyway, I mean, at this point, you can just glide on the fact that you've done that stuff and everybody knows what you're going to do and you're going to come in and you've proven yourself. But I know by knowing you, it's because we're friends and we've played a lot, I know that you're excited. You get very excited about playing something that is right at the level of where, I don't know if I can do this or not. Or, here's something brand new that I haven't really spent time on. And I know that about you, that you like that.
Well, oh yeah. Again, let's go back to the day we did your record with Gio.
Yeah.
There was a piece I'll never forget. The last piece we recorded, man, and I saw that time signature, and I went, oh my god! And not for nothing, Russ. It's not a normal. It's not a normal music. It's not pop. It's like it's. How can I put this? It's something very intellectual.
Yeah.
Okay. It was it was very cool. I love that kind of music.
Yeah.
One thing is to hear, one thing is to execute, and another thing is to execute with Russ Meller and Giovanni Hidalgo on the other side. So, and I do have to say thanks to you and to you. You guys carried me, and I did great. I did better than expected, and I did have a help from you guys. But even though I was prepared, but Russ, sometimes you get in situations that pushes you. You guys made me push.
Yeah.
You guys made me, how do you say it? Step out to the plate.
Yeah.
At that moment, I'll never forget it. I am so grateful to you and to Gio. You guys had me. I was when I left that night. You never heard this. I felt so happy. I was very proud of myself because it was something completely out of my comfort zone, and you understand what I mean.
I do.
I mean, it was something that was to me very
Yeah.
difficult to execute, and I think I did a great job. Well, it's in the recording.
Yeah, you did a great job, of course.
Gio once, by the way, Gio calls me one. Man, that thing solo that you did, and you rip, and
I know,
and that's just, you always have to push yourself, Russ.
Yeah,
you definitely do. Business, musically, anyway, and I've learned that. I have to say, I've learned that from you, and it. You have to push me. I cannot stay here. Richie needs to move forward.
Yeah.
Needs to learn more. You need to push. Go to fifth gear once in a while. Push yourself a little more. And it just, you cannot stay in the comfort zone for so long.
It's true. And you know, I learned that part of it I learned from Steve Smith, you know, years ago, because I would see him really pushing himself, and him and I talked about this a lot, where, you know, he would be working on something, or him and I might learn something at the same time because we were around somebody. And I would see him really focus on it and then like deliver it way sooner than I was comfortable trying to deliver it. You know, where I was like, whoa, he's already into this and off, you know, and I'm like still going, I might bring this out in a month or two, you know, I mean, you know, that kind of stuff. And it really inspired me to go, okay, you know what? Like you were saying, I mean, there's moments in those sessions with Gio that I'm having those same things, but I mean, you're approaching it going, you know what? I feel confident that, you know, we have all that information and experience behind you, and you just move into it and try to execute at the highest level possible. And I mean, that happens a lot. Sometimes it's directly in playing, right? Like this rhythm or time signature or something that you just haven't done it that much, right? Sometimes it's like I'm playing a piece with the symphony on the floor for a movie, and it's a 19-minute piece, and everybody's bleeding into everybody else's mics. Everybody has to play that in one take. And I don't want to be the guy to send everybody back to the beginning. You know, at minute 17, I screw the thing up, and then it's like, we all go back. And I mean, the pressure of those things, I think it's important for all of us as musicians and as drummers, as players, to sit down and go, what am I going to do today to put one more brick into this new building? You know, I'm building this building, and even if it's just one, what today? And I try to do that in my practice, is like, you know, today I'm going to put this one more brick in, and then one more brick tomorrow, and one more brick. Maybe it's just, you know, I've been turning my hand over like this too much when I go to this side of the kit. Try to keep my palms down, you know, anything that it is, it doesn't matter. And then next thing you know, in 6 months, you turn around and you have half this building built. And in a year, it's 3 stories tall. And next thing you know, like, it's just, you're advancing. And you're just moving, and things are becoming more powerful underneath what you can do, and you have more ability, like yourself, with all those styles and all those instruments. I mean, one of the things that's so impressive about you and all the great percussionists is every one of those instruments is an art form. The shaker, the tambourine, the conga, the cowbell, the timbale, you know, everything is an art form in itself. You could spend a lifetime just playing timbales. You know, and but you guys come up and play so many of them so well, and I just want to commend you on the effort and time that you've given to that, to be able to do that, and to do it at such a high level. And I think it's really inspirational to everybody watching, as well as myself. So
awesome,
really cool. And you know, our last point that I want to bring up is, I have it as engage your audience as well after the gig. I think our audience is the band, you know, that we're playing with. It's certainly the audience that are people out there. It's also the people hiring us. And I think one of the important things that we need to touch on, and I know that you do as well, as, you know, you're an easy guy to get along with. You're a happy guy when you're working and playing, and you put out a positive attitude, and it's a joy to be around you and work and play, versus the guy who walks in and goes, I stunk at that take, man. I don't want to do that. There's a great there's a great line from Joe Zawinul, I think, said it, where the guy came in and was like, man, I don't really like what I played on that solo, and Zawinul said, well, why'd you play it then? Like, commit to it and play it and own it, or don't. And
Absolutely. Russ, would that be example of attitude is everything?
yeah, attitude is everything, absolutely. And the engagement of people and being nice and making the people feel that I'm glad I hired Richie Bravo. I'm going to hire him again. This was great. It's that thing of giving more than what's expected, right? Where if you give less than what's expected, you're not coming back. And even if you give what's expected, you got a 50-50 chance, right? But if you give more, if you always give more, then, and that's what we said about the Henry Ford quote, right? Look at how much you can give for $1 versus how little you can give for $1. That's what's wrong with companies nowadays, right? You look at some of the instrument companies, you look at some of the other things, they're just taking away, trying to get the same money, make it cheaper. I think that's not wise business. It looks wise, it looks good on paper, but it's not wise in the big picture, and I don't recommend that any musicians do that. And I know that you don't. You give more than what's expected all the time.
Always. I was taught to give, give you 100%, man. I always was taught to give 120% or 110%, more than 100.
Yeah.
Always, in any session, any gig, no matter how crappy the gig is, man. Yeah. You don't know who's looking. You don't know who's going to be there.
Yeah.
You don't know what could happen in any time in any gig. So always keep that. I always keep that in the back of my burner here.
Yeah.
Every
Absolutely.
time I do something.
Yeah, and there's another thing too that it's kind of come up recently, and I'd like to touch on it. Just your opinion. I see a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of things filming things that aren't fully cooked, right? Like, here's my practice session today. It's inspiring in the fact that you're practicing, that's great, and you want to show people to practice. But on the other hand, it's like, look, man, that's not fully cooked yet. So I don't know how wise it is to show yourself doing something poorly, over and over. I mean, what do you think about that? What's your opinion on that?
Russ, I'm sort of kind of like you. I lock myself in my studio, and until I don't have anything like you said, fully cooked, when it's cooked well, is when I go out.
Yeah.
It gives you a bad. Talking to Richie, this is Richie speaking. If I go see out a band or a drum clinic, and I've seen it before, a drummer that works out something that I just started. I added a double pedal and this, and they show you stuff, and it's like,
yeah.
Like you said, it's not fully cooked. It gives me a bad impression. First of all, it gives you a bad vibe. It's like, if this person is supposed to be teaching me and he doesn't fully understand or comprehend what he's executing, just imagine he's giving off the wrong information right off the bat, right?
Right. I mean, I know you're like this with me. I freak out if the sound's not perfect, let alone the playing. I mean, it could be the most amazing playing in history, but if there's something wrong with the sound, I'm like, get it out of here.
No, it's not happening. It's not happening. And I know you. I've seen you. And it's not that we're anal. It's just it's part of the whole picture.
Yeah.
Even the sound. If you get feedback, if you hit a bass drum and you got a 200 hertz low hum or something like that, you fix everything, and you make sure you execute physically an audio tip that should be what you're going to teach the people.
Yeah,
it's important. Important what you teach now.
Yeah, it's true, and it reminds me of, like, if you think about other products, because you are the product, right? So just imagine if Apple put out iPhones that they know didn't work. Like, you know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, here's our new iPhone. Look, the camera's not working yet. Don't. It kind of works. It kind of works. I mean, you would be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, but artists, I see guys do that all the time. Or you go, "Dude, that's not working. It's not working. Don't show me that yet." Like, it's like, it's like a phone that doesn't do everything it's supposed to. And I know some guys might disagree with me with that. They just want to inspire people to practice or do something. I think maybe it's wise to make sure that you're doing the best that you can always, and trying to be excellent and trying to show excellence in everything that we do. So I just want to challenge everybody to do that. And I think guys like Richie, for instance, are a perfect example of flourishing, relevant careers for decades upon decades upon decades. And one of those key elements, I think, is that every time we see you, it's top-notch, excellent, as best as it could be. So I appreciate that from you, brother, and you're amazing. You're an amazing artist and musician. I thank you for giving us this time. I know that there's some real amazing nuggets in there that are going to affect people, and I just encourage you to keep doing it, just like all the rest of us. I can't wait till we get to play again real soon. And
we will, Russ, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. My brother, I'm one of the biggest fans, and it just so happens that we're really good friends, and man, I'm looking forward to be playing in that stage with you.
Absolutely. We got to get the Giovanni gig out there when we can, do some shows with it. It launched right when COVID was happening, so we're like, Gio and I are like, we gotta do gigs. Like, there are no gigs.
Well, you know what? The good thing is about a lot of people are listening to it in their house.
Yeah.
So
all right, good.
For when everything is out, people are gonna want us to see. They want to go watch that live.
All right. Okay. Well, hopefully they will. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for episode 5 of Concepts Live from Modern Drummer, and we are launched every second Tuesday of the month on the Modern Drummer YouTube channel, which is Modern Drummer Official, and we are talking about past or present concepts columns, and of course the present ones are launching monthly with the magazine. So check that out, and we will be back next month with another esteemed guest, of course, and this is episode 5. So thanks for joining us, and check out the other 4 episodes that are in the tank, and we will see you next time on Modern Drummer Concepts Live. Thanks.